headline makers now joining us to go... What's wrong with that?
Oh, you sounded... It was very sort of... That was a bit Joanna Lumley, I thought.
I take that as a compliment. Thank you awfully. Where was I? Sorry, we're doing headline makers now, yes. Editor of Spiked, Tom Slater is with us, and former Labour advisor, Scarlett Maguire. Welcome both.
Morning. Tom, right. No, sorry, you've just tickled...
You're in a very funny mood.
You've tickled my fancy, Ms Diamond. Let's have a look at the COVID inquiry, Tom, should we? Where Priti Patel told us yesterday that before he was fined for breaking the COVID rules, Boris Johnson wanted bigger fines for everybody else.
Yes, so this is when they were kind of opening up slowly after one of the summer lockdowns, in which they were talking about how to manage the messaging, and Boris Johnson issued this note to his advisors saying that obviously he's behind the reopenings, but we need the overriding message, all caps, to be that there will be tougher enforcement and all caps bigger fines. And as you say, this was within weeks of him attending his own cabinet room birthday party, where he had a couple of cans of beer and a slice of cake.
Yes, but he was assaulted by a cake,
yes,
wasn't
he?
He was assaulted by a cake, he was ambushed by a cake. It was doing all kinds of terrible things to him. I think this is just a useful reminder of the fact that Boris Johnson, and I say this from someone who was very against lockdown, has kind of been written up as the one man of principle within government. He stood up to the modellers, he stood up to the advisors. And it's true that, you know, if maybe someone else were in power, we might have been in lockdown for a little bit longer. But at the same time, he was only really right sometimes because he just oscillated wildly between the two positions. That's something that's come out of the COVID inquiry, that's something that's come out of all the reporting and the documentaries and so on. It's not that he ever really had like a principled opposition to it. And when you're thinking about these fines in particular, Boris Johnson was fined, what, £100 for his particular indiscretions. There were students who were given £10,000 fines for organising house parties. That's a life-ruining amount of money for someone at that particular age, particularly if they don't come from money. So that's one thing that I think I wish had come out of the whole Partygate scandal, if nothing else, would be that all of those people who've been issued, particularly those kind of exorbitant fines, would just had the slate wiped clean.
Yeah.
The fact that didn't happen, I think, is a big problem.
It does need to be, doesn't it?
I think so.
But I think what's so interesting about the whole COVID thing is that some people say that Nadine Dorris's book about Boris and the plot to get rid of him is the beginning of the move to get Boris back, is that he's going to wait and he's going to... And I think that when his pals say that he doesn't have the right skill set to deal with this crisis, that you do feel that Boris probably was one of our worst prime ministers ever, and we really don't want him back.
There are a lot of people who do, though, aren't there? There are a lot of people who do.
Oh, yeah. No, so I was talking to somebody who said that Boris has moved into the Cotswolds and he goes to his local pub and it is absolutely divided in half between people who think he's completely wonderful and people who think he's completely wrecked the country.
Everything these days is Marmite.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Everything's black and white. There's no shades of grey anymore. And I think I find a bit depressing.
At least where Boris is concerned, I think one thing that, whilst people on the other side of the Brexit argument won't necessarily like him for, the one intuition he had was that Brexit is important and it had to get over the line, otherwise we would have serious consequences for people's faith in democracy and so on. That is one thing he genuinely called right, in my opinion, and I think that's something that, even though I've never voted for him, I've never been a supporter of his, I think we'll look on more favourably.
You just said that some of the inquiry is showing that Boris Johnson vacillated or oscillated, didn't you? But how could anyone not oscillate when we were dealing with a crisis that was unprecedented? Is it that inhuman to think, you know, that any one of us, given that sort of job, would probably oscillate?
Now, I think oscillating at the beginning was fine when we really didn't know. But actually, this memo that Tom's talking about was quite late on. It was after the first lockdown. I think that first lockdown, I think anybody should be able to hold up their hands and go, I just didn't get it. I mean, there was this whole view was that the Italians were sort of wimpish and it would never come to Britain because we're so strong. There was people who wanted lockdown immediately. There were people who didn't. There was a complete mess around the schools. All of that, I think the first lockdown really is excusable. There's some things in it that aren't. I think taking old people with COVID and putting them into care homes was inexcusable, but I think you're right. But if you look, the problem is that it never got any better, and the oscillation was what everybody says about, and certainly Anthony Seldon in his biography of Boris says, is he's somebody who goes with what was the last person who said it.
Yeah. OK. Look, we've got to leave it there. I hate to say it. Tom, Scarlett, thank you very much indeed. Short but sweet this morning.
We're not going to do the sewage in the Thames.
No, sewage in the Thames another day.
Yeah.
That's not a breakfast topic.
No, it's not. Let's have a look at the weather for you.